In this lessons episode, learn why embracing change instead of resisting it is the key to personal growth. Discover how faith alone isn't enough without human responsibility and action. Understand why every transformation requires resilience and purpose, and explore how leaning into life's hardest shifts leads to true breakthroughs. Let's answer sort of the elephant in the room. Obviously, it's easier said than done to have something negative happen to you and just realize that this could be a blessing, right? It's nice to talk about it on a podcast. But when people come to you and they're going through shifts in their life, what is the thing that they have to, or what did you have to lean on to make it through the most difficult parts of the difficult times? What is the thing they have to, is it God? Is it self-belief? What is the most important idea? Then we'll unpack that a little bit.
Yeah. So obviously for me as a man of faith, it's going to be God, but I want to make sure that I curtail that with some flexibility. And by that, I mean, God is the source, but he also leads you, as the scripture says, to paths, right? That's Psalms 23. He leads you through paths of righteousness. So you still have human responsibility in every shift in your life. You see, because and I'm going to be talking about it. I've got a minister here in California today, and I'm talking about the 4 stages of a miracle, and every one of them required human responsibility. So whether you're a person of faith or whether you're agnostic, whether you're an atheist, because there are still ways to scale and make money and make shifts in life without God. I'm not saying that I believe the outcomes are going to be apropos, but there are a lot of people in the world who have tons of money and never read the Bible, right? So when you boil it down to what does it take to make it through the physical aspect of life, human responsibility, that there is no mystical formula, not even for those of us who believe in God. We don't just lift our heads and say, hey, God, send $1 million and it just comes out of the sink when we turn the water on. You're still going to have to put the axe to the grind. You still got to work. You still have to believe. You still have to be self-motivated. You still have to be self-driven. You still have to navigate life's transitions. You still have to be resilient. You still have to find purpose. And none of that is either existent or non-existent because I'm a man of faith. So when you ask me the question, what do I tell people? I don't care what you believe in. These are things you're going to have to do. These are things you're going to have to do. There isn't a Christian dollar bill and a Muslim dollar bill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Good point.
There isn't a Buddhist resilience and a agnostic resilience. You just have to be a resilient person. And then you add faith on it, the size of a mustard seed, and then you can move mountains.
Do you think that some people, this will be a question, I guess, for people that are very religious. Do you think that sometimes you see people using religion as a crutch as opposed to having all of those other components in navigating hard times? Do you think that there has to be this beautiful balance of both?
Yeah, I think it has. That's a great question. I think it has to be a beautiful balance. And when I hear you say the word crutch, I would summarize it by saying that I think that there are some folks who use their relationship with God as a way of not having to show up for themselves, right? So it's like, hey, God, I'll give an example. There's a miracle in the Bible, man that been laying on the bed for 38 years. There's some who would use their relationship with God to say, hey, God, come and pick me up off of this bed. I've been here for 38 years. But the story says that Jesus tells the man, pick up your bed and walk. Human responsibility. So even though God was there, God didn't pick him up, nor did he pick up the bed. He told him to pick up the bed because God has to make sure that we have the faith, the drive, the resilience, and the purpose to continue to move even in moments where we cannot feel him. So yes, I think a lot of folks will use their relationship with God to be an end all be all, and I know it'll be a controversial statement, but I can go through every miracle in the Bible. and prove that human responsibility was necessary. Okay, let's take the one that everybody knows. Jesus turns water to wine. But what does he tell them? He says, go and bring the water pots to me. Human responsibility. He didn't bring the water pots to you go bring the water pots to me and then I'll do it. The man who was blind, God tells him, you have to go wash your eyes in the pool. The man who had the hand that was atrophied, God says, you got to stretch forth your hand. The woman who had the issue of blood, she went 12 years trusting doctors until she got to Jesus. And he says to her, hey, do you want to be made whole? She says to herself, if I could just touch the hem of his garment, see, human responsibility. If I could touch the hem of his garment, I'll be made whole. So there is a human component, no matter what your faith is, to all transition, resilience, breakthrough, and purpose. There is always a human component that's necessary.
I love that. I think that's such an important message too. I think that before we even get further, what we were even just talking about before we press record, you mentioned that this book, The Shift, this is a re-release of a book that you put out, you said 4 years ago. And you've written other books since. And I thought that was an interesting story, how, people will bring you some of the other books that you've written, or they'll go to a book signing for one of the other books, but then they'll bring you this book and they'll be like, this changed my life. Like, please sign this. This has been incredible. So I think that it's interesting to touch on sort of the anatomy of what a shift is, why it's so important, why this idea resonates with so many people. I'm sure you have a couple thoughts, because there's something about the idea of a shift, of going through these massive transformative moments in your life that is so powerful that literally, out of all the incredible work you do, people are still saying, hey, this was the book that had the most impact on my life. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, because I think that the one thing that is inevitable in all of our lives, we won't all be rich. We won't all be poor. We won't all be born black. We won't all be born white. We won't all be affluent. We won't all be struggling. Everybody won't be fit. Everybody won't be not fit, but we all will go through a transition. I don't care what spectrum you fall on. You could live in the hills of Hollywood, or you can live on the streets of Gary, Indiana, where I came from. You're going to go through a shift. So embracing change as opposed to resisting change is the emphasis that the books put on, because change is inevitable. But not only is it inevitable, it's necessary. It's necessary. The tree can't stay a seed forever, right? The oak tree can't stay an acorn forever. If you stay in the original form of which you were planted, you'll never flourish into what you were meant to be. So in this book, I'm encouraging the readers to lean into the shift rather than to resist it. One of my mentors tells me a story about his brother who, when he was younger, used to ride motorcycles, and his wife used to ride motorcycles with him. And you probably know this, Scott. It's like when you are on the back of a bike or a motorcycle with somebody, you have to lean the same direction as them. My wife and I will go jet skiing and she don't really like the water. So I'm going left and she's leaning right. I'm like, no, babe, you gotta lean with me this way, because if you don't lean with the turn, you'll tip it. It's the same way with life. If you don't lean into the change, if you don't lean into the turn, then you're going to tip the boat, and you have to trust that every season has a purpose, and you got to lean into it.
It makes sense. It's very scary when you're living it. What do people, why do people not lean into it? I love this idea, the get out of your comfort zone. You have to go through these hard periods of your life to get on the other. Everything worth doing is on the other side of hard work, hard conversation. All these ideas are so powerful, yet people still shy away from them their entire life. So these ideas, people know them. They know that there's going to be change and shifts in their life. But for some reason, we negotiate with ourselves. We negotiate with ourselves until we die. So there is a huge mental block when somebody stays in a job or a relationship or in a circumstance that does not serve them, quite literally, until they're no longer on this earth. What is this block? What's going on?
Yeah, I think there's several blocks. That's a question that I can see a Lego amount of Legos. It could be the block of, imposter syndrome. It could be the block of inadequacy and insecurity. It can be the block of character versus personality. So none of us have the same block. But here's the deal. I get that question all the time. People say, yeah, but it's hard. It was hard for the person who did it. It is hard. And that's why everybody doesn't do it. It is hard. And that's why everybody doesn't reach it. It is hard, which is why there are all-stars in basketball and people who sit at the end of the bench and have to cheer. We all are born with an incredible amount of talent, right? For those of us, and I'm not talking about people who were born with and God bless them with the severity of a handicap, right? Or something that holds them back. I'm talking about folks who can actually function psychologically in their everyday life without the assistance of, medical attention. Obviously, we understand that there are some folks in life who have been disadvantaged. But if you, and everybody's watching social media now, there are folks who were born disadvantaged, who've gotten the slight edge on folks who don't have disadvantages. I mean, I can't think of the guy's name. He spoke for me one time. I wish I could think of him. He has no legs.
Nick Santanastasso.
Nick spoke for me at a conference. And literally,
he's from Florida. I know him.
Wow.
He's incredible.
He inspired me so much. Nick, I never met Nick. I just saw him online and had our team to reach out to him. This guy is an itinerant speaker. Like, he's everywhere around the world. He somehow thought it kind enough to come to our church and spoke, sat on the edge of a step at our stage with no legs, a partial arm, and tore the room upside down, and is quite honestly making huge amounts of money right now, speaking all over the world, who literally could have said, I have no legs, no arms, and so I'm not going to do anything. That's what I mean by leaning into the ship. He took what he had, he leaned into it, and he made something of himself. Folks listening today, I understand it is hard, and I don't think Scott nor I are saying that it is easy. But what we are saying is you can do it. And how we know you can do it is because somebody with the same set of circumstances or the lack thereof that you have, they did it.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found this valuable, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you want to dive deeper into this conversation, check out the links in the description to watch the full episode. See you in the next one.